What is going on, guys? It's Fish Fosh. Today I'm going to be sharing my Seismic Shifter Devastator class build that has allowed me to comfortably farm challenge tier 12 and 13, whether it be solo or co-op play. Let's get right into it. So in this build, we are going to be focusing on the skill Earthquake, and along with that, we're going to be focusing on the status effect Bleed. So I'm going to leave up my class tree or tech tree in front of you guys here, and I'm not really going to talk about every single detail. All you need to know is that I was focused on increasing my anomaly power, decreasing my cooldown for my Earthquake skill, and taking advantage of every class ability, I guess, that will help me increase the effect of the bleed damage overall. So Red Rivers I have selected twice, as you guys can see. I've also selected Bloodbath and of course Blood Donation. So I'm just taking advantage of all that stuff that again has to do with the status effect bleed. You guys can mix and match certain things. So for instance, if you don't want to have protected by the anomaly, by all means go ahead and select something else. This just depends on your style of play. Now, like I said, because we are taking advantage of the Earthquake skill, every single one of my armor piece has a mod associated with the Earthquake ability. So we're going to start from the very top and talk about Bloodshock. Earthquake inflicts bleed on enemies damaged by the skill. This one is obviously common sense because, again, we're focused on two main things, which is Earthquake and bleed, and using Earthquake inflicts bleed on pretty much every enemy that I am able to use Earthquake on, and that's very, very useful for this build. Next up, we have extra Quake, so I just can activate Earthquake one more time, which is again great. So if I can inflict Earthquake on a wide range of enemies right away, so everyone has bleed, at least I'm doing like passive damage on every single enemy that I encounter, or at least is affected by Earthquake. Next up, we have Panzer Drain. This is something I prefer overall. I just like this. It's kind of like a double whammy where I am able to steal an enemy's armor, and here in this case I steal 30% of the enemy's armor and I gain it for myself. It lasts for 5 seconds. I know it's not that big, but it's just again taking advantage of how frequently we're gonna have Earthquake and how many enemies we encounter when we're fighting off hordes and hordes, especially once we're up in the higher challenge tiers. So this just, again, this was a preference for me, so you can definitely mix this up and change that for something else, but that's why I have that selected. Next up is, I actually was lucky enough to save up for the Seismic Commander's Glove. Now, you don't need to have this, but the Asunder mod is just way too good not to have. What it does is, using this skill permanently reduces the armor of affected enemies by 20%. So there is no cooldown to this. Like, for example, if we look at Panzer Drain, for example, it lasts for 5 seconds, whereas Asunder lasts permanently. So I can attack a boss and they will permanently lose 20% of their armor, which is huge, especially because we are up against time. So reducing any sort of armor that they have just allows us to, you know, dish out more damage to them overall. So I do highly recommend that you guys save up for these pair of gloves. I actually got this from Tiago, so I don't know if it's the same for everyone, because it has been the same for me for the whole week. Maybe it changes at the end of the week, or if we've purchased every single item. So if you're unlucky enough that you don't have this, don't get me wrong, I was using this armor boost for a really, really long time before I was able to save up. So this was the mod I was using instead of Asunder, but I just noticed a huge difference in terms of like how quickly and how much more efficient you are solo and or as a group when you have this perk available to you. Just imagine, like, you have a Trickster who's, you know, just using twisted rounds and a Technomancer using bladed rounds, and you use Asunder on that boss. It just melts them that much faster. Lastly, we do have Ground Crush. So I'm just increasing the passive or Earthquake skill base damage by 35,318. I almost said 3,500. That would have been terrible. But again, you guys can see I'm very, very much focused on increasing my damage with that one specific skill. Another thing to point out is, if you guys actually look at most of or all of my armor pieces, I'm focused on increasing anomaly power, and that's just a preference for me. I had it mixed and matched for a little bit, but I realized, you know what, if I'm going to be focusing on an anomaly build, I might as well focus on making sure that my anomaly power is up there. So I'm just below 100k, and that's actually because of my gloves here, which is unfortunately max health. So that's something I'm going to be farming for, is a Seismic Commander glove that has anomaly power instead of max health. Another important feature and thing I want you guys to be looking for in your armor pieces is status power. So if we take a look right here, status power, the increase to the damage of burning, toxic, and bleeding. Because we're taking advantage of bleeding, having increased status power in most, if not all, your armor pieces will definitely help out that bleed status effect. Another thing I want you guys to pay attention to, or if you guys are able to find, is something called skills life leech. Again, because we're using our skills and we're taking advantage of bleed, this will just help you continuously be replenished with health overall, and it kind of gives the effect that you are a tankier character than you really are, because you're constantly being healed with all the people or all the enemies you have inflicted the bleed status effect on, and that's just very, very useful. And I find that's something that can definitely help you not die as often, especially if you are in a group of 3. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Hopefully that is a build you guys enjoy, and that will definitely help you guys overall in terms of being able to survive and kill enemies at a quicker rate. It'll kind of make your Devastator almost, I guess, invincible, depending on how effective you are when you are using Earthquake and Tremor. Tremor, I find, is actually something underrated. At first, I thought, why would I want Tremor instead of like Golem or Reflect Bullets? And I just find that when you have Tremor on your character, I feel much, much safer knowing that I heal pretty much anybody that gets hit with this skill. So it's very, very useful because you just get swarmed in challenge tier 10 or higher, and having something that just has an area effect like Tremor just makes it much more I guess I'm much more comfortable charging in, knowing that I can just heal up and damage enemies at the same time. So that's the reason why I feel that this build overall is pretty solid. Yeah, you can select I don't know, other things like I said, Golem or Reflect Bullets, but I just feel having Tremor and taking advantage of its quicker cooldowns because of this specific build will just help you overall. That is it for me in this video, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Make sure you click that thumbs up, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.